We rocked up at the uni and there was a guy that didn't have a disabled badge parking in a disabled bay. So Ryan was like, watch this. He grabs the disabled badge we've got, goes to the guy, have you got one of these? The guy says, I'm just waiting for a friend. Ryan goes, that's not why I asked you. And the guy's like, yeah, but I'm just waiting around. I was like, no, can you move? I need to park here. And the guy was like, I'll be a few minutes. And Ryan was like, have it your way. Puts the window back up and blocks this guy in so he can't get out the parking space. Like literally just parked sideways towards his car. Like, I'm scared that they're gonna have a fight. So I'm just like, can I just take the food and go in? And he was like, yeah. And he parked in front of this guy for 2 hours. The guy had to come into our training station and ask him if he could move his car. And he said, yeah, give me a sec, mate. And this guy watched us train for 10 minutes. And then he eventually went out and moved his car. Hilarious.
I'm like, that's the weasel.
The guy learned his lesson for sure. Put it that way. But anyway, yeah, life aside, I'm still in a good place, still happy in life. I'm happy with the vlog. I guess you'll watch it at some point this evening and give me your thoughts on it. But yeah, man, I'm ready to get going and talk about some cool shit. So you fire away when you're ready.
Okay. And my notes hasn't updated because I added to them in the car. Well, actually, no, they have. Okay. So the first kind of idea that I've been playing with, it says, so the greatest trick that the devil has ever played was tricking the world into believing that he's God. So I take that, and I think surely that applies to a lot of stuff in life. There's a lot of deceptions layered on top of each other, and realities that people are believing on quite a big scale. And then I think about the quote, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. And I feel like it's a combination of the two that has like trapped people psychologically in this kind of world of noise. And kind of they're all blind. They're fighting fire with fire on like the political spectrums because it's more about the other party than your own party. And rather than kind of killing people with kindness, it's kind of the illusion, right? And then it's the thing about as well, like your attention. I'll put that down. So yeah, give me your thoughts and then I'll add to it after.
So what do you think it means when people believe that they're God?
People believe that they're God.
Well, that's what the quote was saying, wasn't it? The greatest trick the devil played was making you believe that they were God. Do you mean the devil has made us think that the devil is God?
Yeah.
Okay, what? So we're being... Go on.
So kind of like the devil's making people believe that bad things are good.
Okay. And that we're blind to what's truly important, or who we should truly be in life, and what we want.
Truth. And we're too distracted to get to truth.
And that blindness happens because of all the noise taking our attention, all the shit you see on the news and the media, and the TikTok brain rot, and all that distraction and anxiety and unrest that then stops us from like seeing, like I was saying to you on the phone the other day, what do you want to give a shit about in life? Because you only have a certain number of shits to give, and you can't give a shit about everything. Otherwise, you run out of shits to give to the things that are actually important. Is that it? Or am I following now?
Yeah. So and the truth part's important. So that's kind of a point that collides us. So people kind of stop following the truth because of all this noise. And the problem with this is they're not, because the devil's disguised themselves into God. You need kind of evil to get to the truth. If that makes sense. If you're trying to work out your own values, you're not going to really going to discover them unless you kind of go through pain and go through a reality that you kind of want to get out to shoot up towards it. And I also look at kind of the value of your attention. This comes a part of it. I don't know too much about it, but I think it's kind of like, is it the Horus, the Egyptian eye?
Yeah.
Like the massive like lack of awareness about how valuable your attention is. Because once you see something, you can't unsee it. But then once you do that on a grand scale, you kind of make yourself believe in stuff. Like you kind of get in your own way.
Well, we live in a world of illusions, don't we? I mean, what we pay our attention to and what we believe in is more important than what's actually there. You know, you don't live in the world. You live in the picture you've painted of the world by the experiences you've had and what you care about and what's sort of affected you from the past. Like your emotions as a kid and the ways you've interacted with the world as a kid set like solid foundations for your worldview that last forever until you come across any drastic change, and that's rare in itself. I think it's interesting, like when you talk about truth, are you talking about individual truth, like what is true to me as what I feel is important and what is true to me as being what's good for me and my life and what I want? Because it's difficult to say. I actually really like your point about how to find truth you need evil, or you need a recognition of evil or recognition of what's bad, because the truth isn't always glorious and happy. I mean, you're always running through a meadow towards the truth. Often you're fucking dragging yourself through stinging nettles and thorns to get to what's important and what matters to you. Yeah. How do you think people can cut through the noise? Because I was actually listening to a podcast today when I was stretching before I had a little sauna session at my grandparents', right? And I was listening to Chris Williamson, this guy. He's like a meditation-y guy, but instead of being the meditation, spiritual, like shamanic guy that we've had in the two recent podcasts, right, that come on and talk about a lot of woo-woo stuff that I'm interested in, but I struggle to see like the everyday application of. This was a guy who tries to find like the day-to-day application of meditation and why it helps you in specific areas in your relationships, in your work and stuff. And how can we talk about these ideas about how important your attention and stuff and actually affect our daily lives? Because we can't just be monks that read scripture and pray for like hours at 3:30 in the morning, like some of the guests we have on. Right? That's not what me and you are going to do. So how can we come up with some principles for like daily life to protect our attention? Because I've got a couple in my head, but I'm interested to see what you think and maybe what you do to look after your gaze on the world and make sure you're focusing on what's true to you and not just noise.
Yeah. What I will say before this as well, though, like there is a chance that we are still believing in the devil disguising himself as God.
Oh, 100%.
The parts about that. I mean, like for example, with the time I did like Tate for a little bit. And he's a very complex character, so I won't get in the debate of that, but I wasn't totally aware of that, and I was kind of under that illusion for a little bit.
Now, I have a thing on that as well. Before you go into your points, just to add to that, 100% agree, because I was thinking the other day when I was driving, what's something that people find difficult about me, potentially, if they're like averse to my worldview, and it's maybe like some of the motivation behind people that leave comments on our videos and stuff. And I think it's because we're incredibly naive in a lot of ways, right? Because we talk a big game at 19. And I actually recognize that like I am a nobody in the world. I'm just some young kid that's discovered some ideas and likes talking about them. And really I know fucking nothing, and I haven't had true tragedy happen to me yet. You know, neither of my parents have died. I haven't got married and had a divorce. Do you mean my future wife hasn't had a miscarriage? I haven't lost my job and been bankrupted. Like there are big life things. Like we talk about happiness and mindset and all that shit. Like I think we are in a walled garden, but we all are, aren't we, Jacob? Like I was saying, we all create paintings over the world of which we live in. And yes, we are naive and we don't know everything. But what we do know at the moment in our life is that we're in a good place. And if you're in a good place, you should share that. So that's sort of like where I come from with that point. But I totally agree with you. Like everyone sees life through some sort of tunnel vision. There's going to be so much shit outside the box that you live in. And in my mind, what's most important is that what I focus on makes me feel good on a daily basis and makes me a positive person for other people and the things I'm working on. But yeah, great point. Now, take me into sort of how you try and protect your attention.
I'd like to annoyance. I'm up to a point now where if I need to go on to post, I recognise that I spent 5 minutes consuming other stuff, that I switch off and get back to it. And I think that's because I think it comes down to ideology and belief. Like, people don't want to accept that social media is bad or their time on it is bad. So you have to believe that first, and then you go into it with that intention that you're not going to like land in the trap. And maybe kind of I think it's discipline. I think there's a lot of things trying to swarm our attention. I don't really give in to too much consumerism because I go in with that belief that money's kind of a resource for freedom and not something that should be used to elevate my dopamine levels. So I think you kind of need to accumulate these beliefs, because you need to accumulate these beliefs, not kind of give in to any desires, and don't be a part of the noise. Don't just be a sheep. Yeah, I started at that.
Yeah, I like that. I like the point you said about accepting that you can get caught doing things you wish you wouldn't. But that involves like a recognition that you are fallible as an individual. Like we all make mistakes, from big life mistakes to small micro moments when you end up scrolling on Instagram or whatever. Like that acceptance of I mess up sometimes is a first step for you to go, right, what's messing me up? Because if you don't evaluate yourself honestly, then you can't improve then, because you don't know what you're doing right and wrong. There's no like value judgment, and there's no better choice then, no action. So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Also, I'll comment back on the kind of how we are very naive. I think yes, we are, but we also do. It's not like, I think we still kind of have a say, even though we haven't made it yet. We still have done the things in order to make it, and that's what a lot of people won't do, and therefore we are very disconnected. Well, I am anyway, from normal life, and then you kind of live in their own separate world because 99% of the population are doing another thing. So you kind of still live with that mentality. It's just like you haven't got to that destination yet.
Well, and also, if you had to caveat everything you said with, like, I don't know everything, I'm not a finished project, like, everyone would have to do that. You know, like, even people like Joe Rogan, who has the biggest podcast in the world, people can criticize him and say he's naive and out of touch because now he's a multimillionaire and he doesn't understand the struggles of the average person. Like, everyone's naive. Everyone's like forgetting or not recognizing things about life that are difficult. And I can understand the way me and you speak a lot of the time. Like, we speak with a lot of conviction. You know what I mean? That we have answers. Like, the reality is that's not what we're trying to do, right? We're just documenting our own experiences. Like, all I know is I'm pretty happy at the moment in life, and I'm going somewhere that I'm excited about. Like, the way I put it to a couple of friends in recent weeks is that the movie that I'm watching through my eyeballs is interesting. And that's what I genuinely believe. The Joel Clifton experience that I'm having is interesting. And I just want to share that with the world. I'm not a dictator. I'm not preaching. I'm not telling people to follow it. I'm just putting it out there and seeing what happens. Like, isn't that what we've done with our podcast clips over the recent few months, where things have not taken a massive leak, but we're getting more eyeballs just seeing what me and you say. And that wasn't really the intention. It was a nice idea, but we're just seeing what happens. And that's all you can do in life, is just say things and put it out in the world and put your creativity out there. Like, I'm not claiming to be Jesus Christ. I'm just some kid with a shaved head, like with a shitty beard that he's trying to grow. Like, I'm like everyone else.
It's kind of like Nietzsche's idea of treating life like a work of art, and what we're kind of doing is we're adding a color, strokes of kind of a color, and you have the overall painting in mind. So I think people see our shade of pink and they don't want to follow it because their shade's grey, maybe.
And that's okay. Like, if you want to build a great picture, that's fine. Like, if you want to be sad and angry and watch a clip of me waffling on about some psychological or philosophical idea and get annoyed, like, you've got the freedom to do that, right? You have the freedom to get offended and write an angry comment. You also have the freedom to like it. You also have the freedom to not care at all and delete the app off your phone and go and touch grass. Just like I have the freedom to speak my mind, and we have the freedom to post and put things out in the world. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I keep thinking someone's trying to open my door because I know someone's there, but I haven't seen them yet.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about the state of play. I was thinking about the state of play, but kind of in like a massive kind of how it fits into everything and how it's kind of like the equilibrium. So on both ends of the spectrum, you kind of have the professional and the child, or like
real sergeant and the child.
An adult, an adult and a child, or a professional and an entertainer. And I think that there is this certain proportion that which is play. It's like an equilibrium, a
balance point between the two.
A balance, yeah. Where like the highest value is achieved, and also like the message kind of connects with people. So I'll put this into some context, the state of play. So from a marketing point of view, I found that on both sides of the spectrum, you have the professional, the professionalism to deliver a high value product successfully, and then on the other hand, you kind of have maybe all the brand and kind of the personality and the stuff that you get up to, and the kind of what your values are, and the fun stuff what you do. And I found this in my own reels, because the ones that do best have that play equilibrium, and so that's what I'm kind of trying to achieve again. It's because also like another point is like people don't want to be sold to, so then when they watch the whole thing at the end and then they realize that an ad, that's kind of the best thing to do, and kind of disguise itself as like a more playful video. But then there's also the context of like where like a person to person context. So if I walk into the coffee shop, I want a really quality coffee, but then I also want a chat with the barista who's not taking my job too seriously, and who's also kind of playing along, and he's funny. And so you have kind of an emotion, I guess, an emotion and the quality. And if you can like live in this throughout a lot of your encounters and kind of your philosophy, then you're reaching kind of the highest value of I'm enjoying every day. I'm really happy, but I'm doing something really meaningful as well. And
I have so many points on this, but keep going, and then I'm going to go off and rant.
I was going to say as well is okay, so the meaning point's important because if you don't provide the quality, it's kind of like you got happiness and meaning, but happiness doesn't give you meaning, whereas meaning gives you happiness. So therefore, I can't really think of any other philosophy apart from this one. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, on this, I think about it. We talked about it before. As in, there's two main characters in my head. There's a drill sergeant, and there's like an Alan Watts spiritual bloke with a long beard, right? And they both whisper in my ear all the time on what I should do. And in your analogy, you can put the drill sergeant on the professionalism side of the spectrum, and the Alan Watts spiritual guide guy on the child part of the spectrum, right? And in the middle, that's the best spot you can live your whole life in. I mean, think about it this way. It's like taking life incredibly seriously, so you try really hard, but also knowing that you're going to die and nothing matters. Like, I think there is a way that you can live your life with both those ideas in your head. Like, take everything like it's so deep, but it's actually not that deep. You know what I mean? Like, really put your efforts into things, but don't care if it works out. It's like, this is where the work is the reward. This is where you do the thing to the best of your ability, and you don't care how it does, really. You try really hard, but then relax about the result. And that is such a nice little place to be in. And the same thing in conversation. Like, I love the social example you use, because the drill sergeant wants every social interaction to go perfectly. Do you know what I mean? There's an outcome focus of the drill sergeant when he comes into interaction. So he goes into the coffee shop and he just wants the best iced latte he could possibly get, right? Whereas the Alan Watts character will float into the coffee shop and just wants to, like, love everyone and levitate and be at peace, right? He doesn't really care about his coffee. You've got to be somewhere in between. And actually, that's through, you order your coffee and you flirt with the barista a little bit and you smile at her, you give her a good eye contact, and then you get on with your day. And it's just like, she feels good because she's had a real human interaction rather than some guy with headphones coming in and not even saying a word to her. And you feel good because you've got your product, but you've also touched the world in a nice little way. And I heard this quote the other day from, there's a YouTube channel called Charisma on Command where they talk about like social skills and things like that, right? And the guy behind that, Charlie Hooper, has this idea where he said, if you want to get play and positive social interactions in all of your life, he said you should flirt with the world. And that idea, like, that hit me like a ton of bricks when I was driving. Flirt with the world. He's like, everyone that you meet, there should be an element of flirtation, an element of play, or even the things that you do, right? Me playing basketball, me reading, me studying, me making YouTube videos. There should be an element of play. There should be a balance between the drill sergeant and the Alan Watts. I should try hard, but not care whether that leads to outcomes or material goods. And even if it's like looking at a tree or listening to the birds or appreciating the sunset, an element of play, right? And maybe that's the positive energy that I picked up when I went to Sardinia, right? Was everyone was just there, chilling out, wearing sunglasses, drinking red wine. They were playing with life. And I think we've come on to a really important and significant point, that how can you live your life seriously but not seriously at the same time? That's what play is. It's that balance point in the middle. So yeah, talk to me. How what are you thinking of this?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great thing because it makes normal life so much more exciting. And I think so. The non-serious part, all you've got to do is zoom out, and nothing matters. Like, so the risk that you take today with that person, it's not gonna matter when you zoom out.
No, I mean, most people are side characters. You know, that coffee shop might be a place you regularly go, right? But say it isn't. Say you're in a new town and you just pop into a Costa and you try and just flirt with the world and smile at people and have a little conversation with the barista. If it goes awfully and she just grunts at you, or the manager like just gives you a dirty look from the other side of the room, or this guy's like, why is this kid staring at me? That's fine. Like, these people just live their own lives completely independent of you. You're 30 seconds of their day. And like you said, when you zoom out to a cosmic level and realize that we're on a floating rock that's burning from the inside and nothing fucking matters anyway because we're all going to be food for worms in the end, like, just love it. Flirt with the world, flirt with life, love it. Like breathe deeply and take it all in.
Um, yeah, I think the way you do that is you kind of try and make an opportunity out of nothing. So you've kind of got the mundane experience, and then you kind of seek something out and try and play with it and see what you can do. And I'm also, when you're too professional, yes, you're outcome orientated. And when I went up to, maybe like 2 months ago, I went around talking to strangers, and one thing I did learn was you can't be outcome focused when you talk to them. So otherwise, it's too. There's no room for expansion. It's kind of too set. I mean, you talk to people who are too like professional minded all the time, and the conversation is just dead. Like that's why a lot of rich people maybe are boring and stuff like that, because they can't have that ability because they're too stressed in their mind, and then they can't outwardly play. I do want to. I mean, it's something I haven't really implemented enough of this, so I do want to try and flirt with the world more. And I guess I got to take my own advice and try and kind of test the waters a bit more in daily life.
Do you know what? This links to actually the primary point that I wanted to come to for this conversation that I had written in my Notion. And a lesson I learned this weekend was, I think it's so beneficial to keep in the front of your mind just how improbable and mystical and unpredictable everything is. So I talked about it in the spoken word bit that I put over the Sardinia vlog that I posted today. But I'll start with how I came across this and then how it relates to my recent weekend and the lesson we can gain from that. So Alan Watts has this passage where he talks about how interesting it is to imagine things that don't actually exist, like dragons and gargoyles and griffins, right? Things like this, right? And then he says, but isn't it more interesting to think about things that do actually exist? Like he used the example of like rhinoceroses, right? And when you look at them, how improbable it is that they are even there. How the hell has that thing grown by evolution from a single-celled organism with those horns and that big structure of muscle and the way they fight for mates and the food source and everything about that being is ridiculous. And if you go back to thinking about statistically, if we think about fertilization and the millions of sperm that are released each time human beings have procreate, and the probability that you as an individual with your genetic profile was here the statistics are ridiculous. You basically shouldn't be here. There was a phrase that Siggs used in that episode with him that stuck in my mind for a while, which is, you've won the cosmic lottery by being alive, right? And I thought this weekend, I was thinking about not only that basis that everything is ridiculously improbable, including my existence and everything's existence around me, but also how the hell did I get here? I'm in a car driving through central London wearing like sports kit from a new university that I'm transferring to in 2 months' time, thinking Joel 2 years ago would have no idea this was about to happen. And I the other day I was thinking as well when I was driving back, my coach next year was a Paralympian for 2008, 2012 and 2016. And I was driving on the motorway and he just WhatsApped me. And I was like, I should never forget how ridiculous it is that the kid who started wheelchair basketball at the age of 8 that couldn't even score a basket is now getting WhatsApped by 3 times Paralympians. And like, that is my example, but everyone listening and you, Jacob, can think about things that are happening in your life that you could never have predicted and that your 10-year-old self will look at now and find so spectacular. And we have to, it's sort of the idea of loving life as well, because it's recognizing that everything's just weirdly cool and has come out of nowhere. And yes, things are hard, like tragedy hits people and we're very naive because we haven't been hit with some real tough shit in our life that a lot of people go through. Yes, I understand that, but I'm so grateful that I've been thrust into this weird experience. And I think more people would benefit if they realized just how ridiculous everything is, like almost laughing at it, seeing life as that play and that comedy. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, from a personal point, I think so. There's some sort of Chris Williamson quote that I don't want to butcher, but he said like something about like what you don't do as a child, you then want to re-explore as an adult, and then that kind of flourishes. I don't know too much.
Wasn't it something like what made you weird as a child, you're praised for as an adult, or something like that? Like what made you different and odd as a child, you're actually like congratulated for and praised for in adult life. That might be it, I'm not sure, but carry on.
Yeah, I think that's slightly different because also, so from a personal point of view, like I was never particularly good at talking, and kind of gone through introverted periods and then slightly extroverted periods, but mostly introverted. So I kind of never predicted this podcast, and also I've never taken a graphic design lesson, never taken a photography lesson, never took an art lesson. All these things I've never done, and then I start a clothing brand. So there's absolutely no idea I would have predicted this even 3 years ago.
No, that's it. And it's also how everything snowballs from a decision you might make on a random Tuesday evening in February when you're in school, that then snowballs down the line for us being here now. You know, like you were inspired by, wasn't it the CEO of Gymshark, or the previously CEO of Gymshark, and then you just decided, well, I'm gonna like brainstorm some designs, and suddenly loads of jumpers are in your bedroom, and now you're like, shit, now I've got to market them and sell them. And for me, it's like I started listening to Jordan Peterson's lectures, or read Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and I'm reading this book and listening to these ideas, and I'm going, I am fascinated. And I just followed that, and that's just a snowball that leads me to today, where I'm waffling about similar ideas still, and it still gives me that same level of joy.
It didn't even seem real, kind of when I ordered like all my jumpers, like, but I guess I thought to myself, something that did get me to actually make that action, start the journey, is just like, action is way more important than inaction. So I think you have to, like, if you want to put yourself in a better position, you just got to start now, and to start something. It doesn't have to be anything directly linked or anything like that, or anything particular. I mean, I guess that's why starting's the hardest thing, because it's just like all those emotions that are stuck, and you kind of have to break the shell and actually, like, I mean, there's you and the person that has that thing, and there's all in between, and all in between that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes back to that idea of play, right? Because doing something and it not going perfectly or not going well is better than not doing it at all. Because by doing something and it not going well, you're still like moving the ball forward to where you do want, like where things do go well. Like when I first posted YouTube videos and they were shit. Do you know what I mean? I sat on 57 subscribers for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? Just making the same things, shitty videos with my iPhone, like on the YouTube editor, like. And that state of play, that state where you try hard at something but don't care about the outcome, is needed to take that action. Because if you want everything to go perfectly, right? If you want to like design a clothing brand and then it's as big as Gymshark in the next 2 years, like, that's not going to happen. And that's what the drill sergeant demands of you. Same thing with me. Like, I'm thinking, a lot of people go, I want to make YouTube videos, and if they don't do well within a few months, I'm going to quit. Well, it's like that. You have to have that element of play and not caring about the outcome to then take that initial action. And then from that, you build from the failures. The failures are necessary to keep going.
Is it kind of listening to both their voices, the drill sergeant and the Alan Watts, and then kind of choosing which one's best, maybe?
It's a balance of both. Because the drill sergeant makes you do good work, but the spiritual guide allows you to relax on caring too much about the results. It's like the perfect balance point for how you approach doing things.
That's a pretty good statement. That'll finish that bit off nicely. I don't have anything else to add on that point. I think, lastly, I I wanted to talk a bit about narcissists because we haven't really spoke about them before. I don't know if how much you studied about them, um, but I think one, there's a lot of them. It's like 1 out of 10, something like that, maybe. I don't know it's the right amount, but um, I guess my question is why is so many people like, especially in this country, narcissistic? Um, and like, I'm guessing it's a bad thing, right?
So, for people who don't know, a narcissist, the term narcissist comes from a Greek myth of a guy called Narcissus, right? And it's like back in the ancient Greece where he lived in a time where there were no mirrors, so you couldn't really see your appearance, but he was a good-looking guy, right? And Narcissus came across a puddle on a nice day, and he could see his reflection in the puddle, and he found himself so attractive that he didn't move from that puddle and kept staring at himself for hours and days and weeks until he starved and died, right? That's the story. That's where it comes from. The term narcissist is someone who's so self-obsessed that it becomes toxic. And I think it has a level of prevalence because we live in a very individualistic society. You can follow your own desires. You're encouraged to pursue your own purpose and take what's yours and build a life for yourself, right? And I'm a follower and believer of that kind of philosophy. In a lot of ways, some people might think the thoughts that I have and the things that I say are quite narcissistic because when I'm in a good mood, I have a good level of self-belief and self-confidence. And I think you should do things for yourself and make yourself happy probably then you spread a positive image to others and have a positive impact on them and the world, the wider world, right? So it's probably feels prevalent also because of social media that we get a window into everyone's lives. And it's sort of like a selection effect, right? Because who are the people that are going to post on social media? The people that are self-obsessed. The people that are very low on the narcissism scale are going to be less likely to post. So there's this selection effect where the majority of people that you see on social media are the more narcissistic types. I'm not saying they're narcissistic, but I'm saying they're the more narcissistic types because that's a trait that would indicate you'd post more publicly. And then you feel like that's what most people are like. So I think it's a combination of that, the individualism of our world and our society me and you live in, and that selection effect of social media, and that's how we get a look into people's lives. Now, the second point of is it a bad thing? Well, it depends, isn't it? I think it comes back to the ego debate we had many episodes ago with Metananda Swami and like the video I made about ego on my YouTube channel of the line between ego and not a line between a good, healthy ego and something like narcissism is where you feel like you're perfect and you don't need any more work to be done. That's where it gets negative and detrimental. So I think you need a level of like, I'm a sick guy, but you also need I've got so much more to work on. I can learn so much from other people.
Yeah, I mean, you said you're a bit narcissistic, and yeah, I think they kind of levels. I can relate to the self-obsession a little bit, but then like for me, it comes on an extent that some people maybe won't like because it's like I like people to be on my time, like, and I don't think that's like I don't know. Yeah, I think that's okay a little bit because you want to like a bit selfish to in order, yeah,
and make yourself a more well-rounded, better human being, so then you can serve the world, right? Like there's a line between giving yourself up so much that people take advantage of you and being so narcissistic that you don't care about anyone and you take advantage of everyone else. Now, the optimal line between those two, that's subjective. So your line will be different from my line, it'll be different from the lines of the people that are going to listen to this. You have to decide for yourself. It's give and take. How much do I want to take for myself from the world and how much do I want to give? And I believe that the more you build yourself up, the more you can serve the world later down the line. Like if I give everything I have now as a 19-year-old, I don't really have the resources or the knowledge or the wisdom to put out a positive message in the world. I'm trying to do that, but as time goes on and I work on myself and invest in myself, then I can serve the world in a better way. And is it narcissistic that I go to the gym and that I care about how strong I am, and I want to wear nice clothes when it's appropriate, and I want to put out have a good image in the world. Is that narcissistic? Well, maybe, but that's subjective again, because the person has a different line of what's appropriate and how you should evaluate yourself. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the point that it's subjective. I think it's sprints. You want to kind of sprint at being able to make sure that you can, because I think that's kind of an end result with this narcissism, where you can kind of end up giving back, because you kind of reach a certain stage, but you need to sprint to get to that stage maybe. I also want for the people listening, I think you should say about your conclusion that you got to about, was it like two types of people that you take advice from?
Yeah. So like, there's a certain level for me that I trust myself a lot on my judgment, and I think we're also too quick to respect certain people in them giving you advice on what you should do, or just like sometimes we give too much of respect to others that we don't respect ourselves enough. And I think there's a balance point again between those two. But the other day I came up with a heuristic or a collection of ideas to determine who you should listen to in life. And I've come up with 2 categories. Now, these might change as I grow older, because it's just my thoughts as a 19-year-old, but I think you should only listen to 2 types of people in your life. People who are as happy or happier than you are, and people who are better at something that you want to improve at. Everyone else, you take it in, you listen, you're nice, you say thank you, and you move on, and you neglect what they say. So that's why when people leave a comment on our TikTok, or some angry like weasel gets annoyed with something I've said, I'm like, if you have the time to watch our podcast clips and put an angry comment on it, you're probably not as happy as me. So therefore I shouldn't really take what you say seriously. It also means that if someone's unhappy but they're a better basketball player than me, I'm still going to listen to them because I care about improving. But beyond that, you should take everyone else's advice with a pinch of salt, including me, right? If you think you're happier than me, or you think that all I'm good at is shit you don't care about, fine, like, don't worry. You know what I mean? Or come up with your own categories of people you should listen to. But I think outside of those 2 categories, you should trust yourself, and you should definitely have a level of awareness that sometimes you give too many people your respect, then they can lead you to believe things about yourself or what you want that's not actually true or beneficial.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important point, because there are people in positions of like maybe blood authority, or just like have say over your life, that just because you share a blood type, or
that's it,
or maybe they're a teacher, or they're in some sort of position where they should be giving you advice, but you have to think who you listen to.
Well, think about it, right? Let's take the UK Prime Minister. I would say I'm probably happier than the UK Prime Minister. Now, I don't know his personal life. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how he's feeling at 5:45 on a Wednesday afternoon, Tuesday, whatever. It's Tuesday today, isn't it? So I'm not going to listen to him on that, because I think I'm happier than him. Is he better than things I care about? Like, is he a good wheelchair basketball player? No. Is he a psychologist? No. Has he got a successful YouTube channel? No. It's like, well, should I really listen to what you say? Like, if I wanted to rise up the political rankings, or I wanted advice on what I should do about the National Health Service, then maybe I should listen to him, right? But that's not my areas of expertise in life. That's not what I care about. So then when I see him there as a puppet on the stage talking about political shit that I'm not really interested in, I don't really have to listen, you know? I don't know. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah, I will tweet it a little bit, because the political one I kind of agree with, but like, I think there's some stuff maybe that you're not interested in, but they're really good at, and therefore, kind of in the spirit of open-mindedness, you listen to what they have to say.
Well, yeah,
I guess the adjustment.
I tell you, I don't want to be an engineer, but if Elon Musk came into a room and I was there, I would ask him questions, because it's interesting. But maybe you could say that I think Elon Musk is better at life than me. And I care about life. So I want to talk to him about his life. I don't really care about the specifics of how he designed the Tesla Cybertruck. Like, I don't care. I want to know about the workings of his mind and how he came to certain conclusions about the world and what his creative process is and how he manages people. And that is stuff that I care about. So I hear you. People that are good at, I care about being good at stuff. So if someone is really good at something, yeah, maybe I'm interested. If it's something trivial, like you're really good at making jam, I don't know if I'm that interested. But if it's like something that I can apply to my life, like, yeah, that's a good little added point. I agree.
I'm just really curious, so I would ask the person who's making jam.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Have you got any final thoughts? Because I've got to go in a few minutes.
No, I think that's everything. Yeah, Elon recently got interviewed by Peterson. I think it was yesterday.
Oh,
I've been listening to it on the car journey here.
check that out.
It's quite interesting because Peterson's like he likes to talk a lot, but then kind of Elon's kind of the prize, but he's still like he's talking to Elon about like biblical stuff. Like Elon doesn't really like have much knowledge on that, and he kind of just like okay. But there is like some little bits about like meaning and what motivates Elon and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I
you kind of have to.
might put that on this evening when I go to sleep. But yeah, we've had a good.
Yeah.
It's been a succinct one, but I think everything we've covered has been quite valuable. There's not been a lot of riffraff. It's been. I think you've got some gold moments in this one. So, yeah, man, good stuff.
All right.